Hey everyone! Today, we're diving into the latest Manchester United news, from Jadon Sancho's struggles to the £33 million Ruben Amorim transfer, plus the FA Cup controversy with Harry Maguire's goal. Let's get started. Jadon Sancho keeps showing Manchester United why they were right to get rid of him. Self-awareness continues to be one of Jadon Sancho's glaring weaknesses. In a harmless interview with an apparent influencer last week, Sancho was asked what he had learnt from Cristiano Ronaldo when they were teammates at Manchester United. Just his mentality, Sancho replied. How he trains and how he goes into games. It's really inspirational. Sancho seldom speaks to actual journalists. If he gave that answer to one, then he would have been challenged on it. Substandard training form, and his public retort to Erik ten Hag for raising it, killed Sancho's United career. He was banished to the academy building and had to get changed in a locked room for safeguarding reasons. Ralf Rangnick had Sancho's number 3 years ago. Back in the days when press conferences were still conducted through Zoom calls, Rangnick was asked about Sancho's struggles during his first 6 months at United. During an erudite and lengthy analysis, Rangnick pointed to his temple. It's more physical, it's more pressure, although he also played for one of the biggest clubs in Germany, in Dortmund, Rangnick explained. But I think in total, the whole league, the whole competition is more physical and the level of expectation is higher. When he came to Borussia Dortmund as a young player, he was only 18. Now he's 21, playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. I think it's also got to do with a lot of different things up here in his head. Sancho enjoyed his best run of form under Rangnick, but the German diagnosed the problem early doors. Sancho only thrives in the comfort zone, i.e. playing for Alsorans in the Bundesliga. There is a reason why he billed Dortmund as home last year. Now he is back in his hometown of London. Chelsea do not generate half the scrutiny United do, but there is a reasonable level of expectation and Sancho's in-game vanishing acts are continuing in blue. He was replaced by the 19-year-old Tariq George in Chelsea's FA Cup defeat on Saturday. Yet he still had the brass neck to stick it to United on Sunday. Sancho and Ronaldo are both represented by the same PR and Sancho did their bidding again. Freedom, he commented on Marcus Rashford's Instagram post to mark his Aston Villa debut, accompanied by praying and celebratory emojis. It is worth noting Sancho is still technically on the United payroll. They are paying a small percentage of his salary before Chelsea are obliged to sign him for between £20 million and £25 million next year. United can be content with that planned sale. Sancho was another hollow piece of business during the Ed Woodward era/error. United failed to conduct due diligence and felt obliged to secure another superstar. Man United, desperate to sell big money flops, singled out by Ratcliffe as the club's biggest mistake. Manchester United winger Antony has got off to a flying start on loan with Real Betis, but sources state that he has no chance of resurrecting his Old Trafford career, along with several others. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his team are trying to shed the excess spending at the club and offload players who aren't part of Ruben Amorim's long-term plans. Antony, Marcus Rashford and Tyrell Malacia were all sent out on loan in January, even if the club's initial preference was to sell the trio. Sources close to Man United state that Antony's £86 million, including Jadon's acquisition from Ajax, is seen as one of the worst pieces of business in the club's recent history. During Ineos' takeover of the Red Devils, Ratcliffe highlighted the Antony deal as the prime example of what cannot be allowed to happen again in the future. The Man United board have since reviewed all transfers from recent years. They valued Antony at £40 million at the time of the deal in 2022 and were amazed a deal for double that price was agreed, per sources. They hope that Antony's loan with Betis will help the 24-year-old get back in form and put him in the shop window for a summer sale, which sources say the club are desperate for. Antony could be left in limbo at Man United. Antony's loan with Betis does not include a buy option and the Spanish club would not be able to match his current wages of just over £200,000 per week. So a permanent switch to the La Liga side is off the cards. The Brazilian will therefore have to look elsewhere for his next move. But at this stage it appears unlikely that any side would match his salary. Antony's wage is an example of why Ratcliffe is making major cuts, and those close to the club state that they believe they have been taken to the cleaners by players who did not justify their pay packet. Antony has made 2 appearances so far for Real Betis and scored in their 3-2 loss to Celta Vigo last week. Man United have now switched their focus in the transfer market to signing young players with lower wage demands, but still have high potential. Ruben Amorim is still in the early stages of his tenure, but was told by the club from the outset that January wouldn't be a big window due to PSR, profitability, and sustainability rules. Amorim managed to bring in a new left-back in Patrick Dorgu, but the manager will have to wait until the summer to see any major surgery done to his squad. Ruben Amorim has done exactly as he said as Man United pursue £33 million transfer. Ruben Amorim kept his previous promise of not poaching stars from Sporting to strengthen Manchester United in the January transfer window despite his undeniable interest. However, the Red Devils boss is reportedly laying plans for a summer siege to capture some of his old stars. Having accomplished an impressive tenure in Lisbon capped with multiple titles under his belt, Amorim's departure to Old Trafford in November sent immediate shockwaves, sparking rumors about him snatching his go-to players from Sporting. United are believed to have dispatched scouts to monitor Sporting sensation Giovanni Quenda, hinting at a swoop come the summer season. Portuguese outlet Record reported that United representatives were in attendance during Sporting's tie against Porto on Friday. The Athletic had previously claimed that the M16 Giants were exploring a summer deal worth around £33 million for Quenda, yet official confirmation remains elusive. Before bidding adieu to Sporting, Amorim asserted his commitment to refrain from stripping the club of its gems straightaway, a word he honored. In January, "I'm not going to get anyone from Sporting," the 40-year-old proclaimed ahead of his switch to England. "That's what I said. In the summer, I don't know what I'm going to do. The main point is to hold on until the summer. The second point, you can see that Sporting players are great players. Let's see what will happen." Quenda, whom Amorim has his sights set on, transitioned to Sporting in 2019 after fine-tuning his football apprenticeship in Benfica's youth framework. The teenage sensation made history as Sporting Reserve's youngest debutant, aged 16, and Amorim lavished praise on a young talent back in July. He told Sporting TV, "He's very talented, very mature, and understands the game like an adult. He obviously has a lot to improve on, but I think he had an excellent game and we have a player there." Meanwhile, United's radar is firmly fixed on Victor Gyökeres, a goal machine who has taken Europe by storm in recent years. Signed by Amorim after a stellar season with Coventry City in the Championship, where he netted an incredible 43 goals, Gyökeres has maintained his scoring spree, attracting attention from elite clubs across the continent. His bond with Amorim might just tip the scales in favor of the Red Devils, who are desperate for a prolific striker. Sporting are rumored to be holding out for a hefty £60 million for their prized asset this summer. FA Cup VAR stance decided after Harry Maguire's controversial winning goal for Man United. A huge shock, some mighty scares, and some memorable moments. The FA Cup had it all over the weekend, but it didn't have video assistant referees. The FA's decision to leave technology out of the tournament up until the 5th round ended up costing Leicester City after Harry Maguire's clearly offside winner for Manchester United was allowed to stand, while fans of Birmingham and Chelsea were also left cursing the lack of a second look at decisions. Overall, though, what did you make of the lack of VAR at the matches? Our reporters were out and about across the country over the weekend, and here's what they thought. Neil McLeeman: "You cannot turn back the clock and disinvent VAR. And this weekend's FA Cup ties showed that, on balance, technology is better for the game because you are more likely to get the correct decisions despite the annoying delays." Even after Harry Maguire's offside winner against Leicester, Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim admitted, "With VAR it was not a goal, and I think it's important to have because it's fair for the game. The FA's decision not to deploy VAR until the 5th round because it ensures that there is a consistent refereeing approach for all clubs is wrong. It just means there are consistent mistakes across all matches which can be avoided." This weekend of FA Cup action was a vision of a future without VAR where TV fans and pundits have a better chance of making the correct decision than the officials. What is needed is the faster semi-automated offside VAR, which will finally be introduced into the Premier League next season. It already happens in Serie A and La Liga and was used by FIFA at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Sam Mead: We were back to a life with no VAR at the weekend. It felt like a throwback as games were allowed to flow. The referee's decision was final, and there was no pause with players. Fans and managers left wondering whether their celebrations were about to be cut short. There's two schools of thought. One camp says football comes with ups and downs. Things don't always go for you. Others say, in 2025, with the technology at our disposal, how are we getting decisions wrong? For me, whilst VAR can drive us all crazy, it is unforgivable for Harry Maguire's winning goal on Friday night to stand. He and several of his United teammates were so clearly offside. Yes, ideally we'd like our game to flow better, and we're still questioning sometimes how they can take so long to arrive at a decision, but seeing Leicester lose out felt wrong. David McDonnell. The FA said VAR would only be introduced from the 5th round to ensure a consistent refereeing approach for all clubs taking part. It's doubtful Leicester, Birmingham and Chelsea fans, all of whom were victims of decisions that would have been overturned had VAR been in place, would agree with that approach.